Jake Knapp is the inventor of the design sprint and the New York Times bestselling author of the book Sprint. He's also the co-founder of Character, a venture fund for early-stage startups. How and why did you start using Miro?
I came from this position of thinking, I don't want to be doing stuff online, to thinking now when I do a sprint in person with a company, it's like, we're going to use Miro, even though we're all in the same room, because that's a better way for us to get this work done. As an investor, we're basically investing in their ability to solve problems. We're saying, we think this group of people is going to be able to solve a problem in a really great way and create value by doing it. And actually, you need to give people the tools that can help them make decisions, help them collaborate, help them visualize and see things in a different way. And Miro does all those things. So to me, at least as an investor, I'm thinking, give the team the tools that are going to help them think, that are going to make the most, brighten their skills as smart folks. And Miro is at the top of that list.
It's like, yeah, we got to do this network update for you to be able to play online and check out the online content. You can't say, here's the thing, you cannot save the game unless you log into PlayStation Network.
Wow,
Let me say that again. You cannot save the game unless you log into, because that wasn't clear the first time, right? WTF, right? Welcome to this podcast. This is episode 7. My name is Tim Mitchell, and I'm in Toronto, Ontario, and I'm joined by Jonathan Kuline in Mississauga, Ontario.
Hello.
And
great to be back on Spotcast.
Jaime is off in some undisclosed location, as he likes to say, so he's not going to be with us tonight. So Jonathan gets to be Jaime Lopez Jr. today.
Woo! Nobody could be Jaime Lopez Jr., but
no. Greg tries, but Greg doesn't quite come. Well, Greg Heo in his own right, I should say, right? So yeah. You listen to the other show, right?
Through the power of podcasting, I'll say that I am wearing my Jaime Lopez memorial wig right now. Yeah. I felt like, I had to put you guys can just picture it in your minds, but it looks really good. It's all spiked up in the front. It looks fantastic.
I can just imagine you with the hair product in your non-existent hair.
In my non-existent hair, yeah. That's, it just makes everything really smooth. I don't know. I don't know what to do about that, but
that's true. Yeah, all right.
Good.
Okay. Well, so Jonathan, why don't we do some fact checking on episode 4 of Spotcast?
Checking. Here we go. So we'll dive into episode 4. 210 in. So this is a correction of a correction, which are my favorite kind of corrections. The 5 original Planet of the Apes movies: Planet of the Apes, 1968; Beneath the Planet of the Apes, 1970; Escape from the Planet of the Apes, 1971; Conquest of the Planet of the Apes, 72. Not that they were churning these things out at all. And Battle for the Planet of the Apes. Tim, that was the only one that you were a little fudged on. You said Battle of the Planet of the Apes, Battle for the Planet of the Apes. So close.
I know, so close. Well, and so the TV show that you talked about was actually based on, because by that time the humans had sort of started to learn to talk and stuff like that, which made no sense since they weren't talking before in the first movie. Yeah. But I don't know, maybe the progeny of the astronauts that landed there or something. I don't know. But so by the time the TV show spun off, it was the battle for the planets of the apes universe or world that they belong to, like the horse-drawn carriages with the apes, and the gorillas, and being militant, and the people. There was a guy with blonde. It was kind of like Starsky and Hutch. There was a blonde-haired guy and a dark-haired guy, and some other people. Now that I think about it, it was about 4 or 5 people that kind of were like they were sort of the rebellion, against the evil gorilla-type people, or whatever.
Hard to believe it only lasted 14 episodes.
I know, it was like phenomenal. It's funny though, because when Planet of the Apes came out, like in 68, I would have been 8 years old, but I didn't hear about it until maybe I was like 10 or 11, or maybe older than maybe 11 or 12. So I went back and watched it, and I didn't see any of those ones when they first came out, like the Conquest for Planets. I might remember the commercials for them, but I don't remember. I never saw any of these in the theater to begin with, but I do remember. So by the time the TV show came on, I was like, okay, I'm going to watch this now to sort of catch up with my friends, which you do, right?
Yep.
Anyway,
I will say that the impressive run to go from 68 to 73 with 5 films. Now, you could argue the production value, but these guys, I like to think that maybe James Cameron could learn a little something from these guys. We're now into 9 years after Avatar. He's still working on the 4 sequels that are to come on that. These guys are banging out Planet of the Apes movies. It's at an impressive pace. Now, they were not good, arguably, but they were.
Oh, hang on. I think the first Planet of the Apes is a phenomenal movie.
First movie's a phenomenal movie. Yeah. The second one has, I think, a 30-minute stretch where there's no dialogue in it at all.
Really? Which one? The second one?
The second one, where he's just riding through the landscape. There's silence. He's with a mute.
This is James Franciscus, the blind detective.
Yes.
Longstreet, I think his name was, or something like
that. It's just, those movies, I mean, they're classics and they're excellent, Well,
the book is I think the book by Pierre Boulez is really, really good. I
love that book. I have a copy. Yeah,
I think I do too.
Yeah, it's great. All right, so we'll continue our fact check. Episode 4, 9 minutes in. The newest CW TV show based on superheroes from the DC universe is called DC's Legends of Tomorrow. I think one of you gentlemen might have
Jaime must have.
Tomorrow, yes.
I'm throwing him under the bus. Yeah.
And it's a shame Jaime's not here for 10 minutes 12 seconds. Toronto's Lex Sadoy played Sonia Valentine on the TV show Continuum. Mm-hmm. I know he's carrying a torch for Toronto's own. 10:50. Rachel Nichols played Kira Cameron, the lead character on Continuum. She's not Canadian. She's from Maine. I think there was some discussion as to whether she, so many people we call out here are Canadians, but American. She also played Gaia, the cadet from Orion in the 2009 J.J. Abrams film Star Trek.
Did we at least get the planet right for the Green Ladies?
Got Orion right, absolutely.
Okay, cool. Absolutely. Yeah, no, I don't remember talking about her being Canadian, but I do remember her as the.
I think it was just a running joke at that point because you and I have both calling out Canadians as they go, and I think Jaime is getting worn down by they're Canadians in that. Right. 3345. The Shenzhou is the name of the program that put the first Chinese citizen, a man named Yang Liwei, in space. That was on October 15, 2003, and that's of course the name of the ship from Star Trek Discovery. The name translates to English as Divine Boat or Divine Vessel, which is kind of neat.
Cool. So that's actually like the first, the name of the first, the space program was called Shenzhou, like
the name of the program. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. 3830. The Duras sisters, who appeared on Star Trek: The Next Generation, Star Trek: Deep Space Nine, and the film Star Trek Generations, are both played by Canadians.
Yay.
Lursa was played by Barbara March, is from Toronto, and B'Etor was played by Gwyneth Walsh. Was born in Winnipeg and raised in Vancouver. So there you go. 2 more Canadian contributions to science fiction.
Yep.
4412. James Frain, who plays Sarek on Star Trek Discovery, also plays Theo Gallivan, aka Azrael, on Gotham, and he played Ferdinand Chevalier on Orphan Black.
So what's Azrael? Is that Azrael is the name of the character in the comic book or something? Or Gotham?
Yes. Yeah.
From Arkham or whatever, that Arkham universe?
Yeah, from the whole Batverse in DC Comics. Yep, he's a character that's been around for a fair while. Yeah. 4917. The Klingon ships that surround the Shenzhou at the end of episode 1 of Star Trek Discovery are birds of prey, not warbirds. Warbirds are Romulan ships. That's those big green, giant, monster-sized ones they have from Star Trek TNG. Those are warbirds. 1 hour, 20 seconds. Jason Isaacs played Lucius Malfoy in the Harry Potter films, not Lucas Malfoy. Lucius.
Whatever.
Yeah. Now I'm just picking nits.
Didn't like the
guy. Yeah, well, he tried to murder children and beat his house elves.
And he denied elves their clothing.
I know. Well, he got his comeuppance, so it all worked out. 1 hour 33. The showrunners of Star Trek Discovery are Aaron Harberts and Gretchen Berg. You were saying you heard an interview, I think, with Aaron Harberts.
Yeah, well, actually, they've been both on. There's a show called After Trek that's on at midnight here in Canada. I think it's live in the part of the world where Jaime lives, in the left coast. I think it's live there, and it's hosted by the Nerdist, which is Matt something, whatever. Anyway, they've been on the show.
That's Hardwick, right? That's Chris Hardwick.
No. It's a different dude.
Nerdist is Chris Hardwick's
podcast or something. Yeah,
that's where he's had his podcast for a long time.
Yeah, no, the guy's handle on, I'll look it up. The guy's handle on Twitter is the Nerdist, I believe. Anyway, I'll look it up while you continue.
All right. And so our final little correction from episode 4. 1 hour, 12 minutes, and 1 second. Star Trek Discovery is broadcast in the U.S. exclusively on CBS All Access, in Canada by Bell Media on Space Channel, and in 188 other countries on Netflix. The budget for the show is reportedly about $8 to $8.5 million US per episode, and Netflix is apparently picking up a significant portion of those costs because they got the exclusive rights to broadcast it everywhere that is not the upper half of North America. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And one addendum, one extra bonus correction from last week's episode. We confused our Denise. We should mention that. We had mentioned in our spoiler-free review of Blade Runner 2049 that the film was made by a Canadian named Denis. It was Denis Villeneuve, of course, not Denis Arcand, who is another Canadian who is Oscar-nominated and outstanding director. Films like Barbarian Invasions, truly another great Canadian talent, but not the one who's behind Blade Runner.
Cool. And the real-time follow-up on the Nerdist is the name of the person. Matt Mira is the host of After Dark, or After Trek, I should say. And he is, I think he must be a co-host or something like that on the Nerdist with Chris Hardwick. Which may explain why he got the gig. But I think that we should probably do some fact check on this, but I think that Space Channel in Canada, right, was the first one to sort of come up with one of these after shows, right? And I'm trying to think of what show it was, but when they had the sort of the recap or the fandom show, and then of course Talking Dead came on for The Walking Dead, and After Black came on for Orphan Black. Yeah. But they started. I'm just trying to think, because I remember hearing them talk about that either on a podcast or
was it Battlestar Galactica?
Maybe did it? What was that one afterwards called?
I'm trying to remember. I have a vague recollection. Again, you were the early adopter on Battlestar Galactica. I think I was. Oh, really? I think I had a brand new child at that point when it first came out, and I think I was a little behind. And you very strongly advocated for make the time for it, and I'm glad I did, because it's really an amazing television show. But I don't remember specifically what the after show was.
Yeah, I mean, Battlestar Galactica was so much better, so much better than the original. And you got to remember too, in the 70s, I tell people, I think I told you this before. Why did we watch the shows we watched? It's because there was nothing else on, right? And we didn't have 27 million channels to choose from. We had 13 if we were lucky in most cases. But yeah, I remember Battlestar Galactica was pretty bad. And it sort of came on the heels of the movie. I never did see the movie, and when I did see the movie, I'm glad I didn't see it because it was horrible. But the whole
disco era sci-fi.
Well, yeah, but mind you, it fits into the whole thing. Was that one with Linda Gray or Aaron Gray?
Buck Rogers?
Buck Rogers. That was another one that sort of spun off around the same time.
Killed Gerard with his shirt unbuttoned down to his belly button.
I mean,
where hairy chests could still work in television.
Yeah, I mean, and that's sort of where the Battle for the Planet of the Apes TV show. That one. Buck Rogers. There was not. I'm surprised they didn't make Logan's Run into a TV show, and they might have actually. Now to think about it,
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just Logan's Run is a perfect example. I thought every time I watch Logan's Run, it's a great story and stuff like that. But I always think it's filmed in a shopping mall somewhere. I wonder.
Yeah. Sure enough. Hang on. 1977 American television series spinoff from the 1976 film. The series starred Gregory Harrison as title character Logan 5.
Oh, see, I knew it. Yes. Oh, wow.
You were absolutely right. And now you get to be the arbiter here. How many episodes do you think that show lasted before it got canceled?
Logan's Run?
Logan's Run, the TV show. I'm
gonna risk it and say 13.
Oh, so close. It was 14 episodes.
Wow.
14 episodes, one season. That was the entire extent.
It actually made a whole season out of that.
Well, I mean, it lasted till February, so we'll say in an era where they were making 24 episodes a year, it probably got canceled early. But that's
TV shows used to come out bang on the first week of September. That was now ever since the writer's strike, it's been sometime in October. Because I think the writer's strike was in September. That really sort of and the writer's strike. Two things: the OJ trial and the writer's strike is why we have reality TV now.
Oh, I know.
Other show. Okay, let's carry on. Let's do this podcast thing. So yeah, I do have some corrections for myself from last week. Let me scroll to the top of the notes here. So I had said I don't know what I said about it. Quantum Mechanics is the name of the company that makes the badges for the fans of Star Trek Discovery, and also the comm badges, and they also make hat pins or lapel pins that are smaller. I bought a couple when I first saw them, and there's other companies that make other official pins but these guys make the comm badges. So
nice.
Go figure. Yeah. Okay. And then so we had some follow up. Some follow up notes here. I was just and I got some of these from the probably from the after Trek sort of trivia stuff that they put up there. But so we talked about the Prime Directive on one of our previous shows and sort of when that came into being, because we talked about why what's her name, captain of the first ship,
Philippa Georgiou,
yeah, captain of the first ship, Philippa Georgiou, said she kind of says we don't do that at Star Trek. She never really sort of came out and said we it's against the Prime Directive or whatever, which is what we hear in the original series and any other show after that. But they did have General Order One at this point in time, that no starship may interfere in the normal development of any alien life or society, and that's where she that sort of guiding principle came from it at this point in time in Star Trek Dome. Oh wait, I have some follow up too from a fan that I want to talk about too.
Just out of curiosity, does General Order One say you're allowed to stab Klingons with batleths?
Probably. Well, that was stuff. Was that so? Let's back up here because that's true. Because you're talking about how everybody blames the mutinist. What's our friend? Michael Burnham. Yeah, is it mutinist? They call it mutineer. Mutineer. They blame her for starting this war, and so correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't she being attacked by the Klingon when he recognized her and she recognized him when she landed?
Oh yeah, he charges at her. So yeah.
So she basically, but he killed himself on his own batleth, right? Or she helped him.
Yeah, I think it was a struggle, and he ended up with a batleth run through him, and yeah.
So she gets the blame. Anyway, we'll come back to that because that's actually sort of where the point of what I want to talk about. I was chatting with a fan the other day. The other thing is that Majel Barrett's character was another. We talked about women on the bridge and stuff like that, and or women in command, and of course Majel Barrett was the second in command and was referred to as number one. And did you know that character has no name?
Well, that's very of its era, I would say.
Yeah, pretty cool, eh?
Yeah.
And
it was meant to be a mystery. They were going to continue that.
I don't know, but because there actually were two pilots with James Shatner, two pilots with William Shatner.
You mean Montreal's William Shatner?
Yes, that's right, from Canada, Montreal, Canada. Because and it's funny because I was watching some of the original series and in the high res versions that are on Netflix now, and the as you know, because your mother, my partner, is big time into costume making. We always pay attention to that. At least I always pay attention to it, and the detail. Right now that they're in high res, you can sort of see the detail of how they were made, and they were sort of very, very they looked like they were sort of thrown together in the first couple of episodes. So a bit more work went into the pilots than I think in the original series or the original first one, right?
Yeah, no, I will give credit to Discovery. The production value is excellent. Definitely put some money into those costumes.
Yeah, and I can't remember the name of the guy who did the costumes for the original series. I heard an interview with him once, or heard a story about him once. And he basically had a shoestring budget, right? So that's why it looks like somebody ran down to the local fabric land and just grabbed a couple of scraps of fabrics and glued them onto the women, and that was kind of how they made their costumes back then. But yeah, it was because he had no budget. And in fact, I had heard that the original uniforms, they were actually done in sweatshops they had to be done overnight kind of thing, and they couldn't get them done fast enough, so they just had a bunch of poorly paid people overnight kind of whip these things up, right? So
yeah, the gentleman's name was William Ware Thies,
the original costume designer. Yeah,
costume designer. Yeah.
Oh, and we talked about the timeline. Jaime and I were joking about the J.J. Abrams timeline. That actually is the Kelvin timeline. I don't know what the name of the current one we're in now, or
I think it's been called Prime. I think they call it Prime.
Prime. Okay, right.
So this would be set in the same universe that the original series was, and the Next Generation, all the rest of those shows. This is the Prime.
And Enterprise and all that kind of stuff. And
yeah.
So okay, so I guess the one where Spock comes through the wormhole. Spoilers for people who haven't seen the first Star Trek reboot
from 2009.
Yeah, it comes. Yeah, come on. It's on. It's been
statute of limitations. We're going to spoil
8 years. Okay.
Yeah.
When he comes through and messes up the timeline, that sort of created this Kelvin timeline, I guess, and justifies Zachary Quinto and Pine and
once again, spoiler alert, they destroyed Vulcan, which completely screwed up the timeline of all the other shows that would have come. And
I guess, yeah.
So clearly, its own bubble universe. That way, they're also not beholden to what comes next. They can just write whatever they want.
Yeah. So let me get into this. So I was talking to a fan here. Let me see here. Well, I was talking to her about, she sort of was saying that she boycotts Twitter because of the whole Rules McGowan thing, right? Which I didn't know what that was the thing until she told me.
Yep.
And she said that she was boycotting Twitter, and I sort of said, well, Jonathan would say, how's that working out for you? Let's see here. She was saying something about she was complaining about the fact that we mentioned that they were wearing mini skirts in the first series, and I guess we were being a little cavalier about that, right? I'm mad at you guys for referencing the short skirts in your podcast, by the way. What does it matter what anyone wears anyway, right? So I said, good point,
I think we were mentioning the fact that the original series is supposed to be set 10 years in the future from this one, where the uniforms are uniform. That's why they're called uniforms. Everybody wears the same uniform, whether it's a male or a female.
Right.
Then we go 10 years in the future, and women are wearing the short skirts, and the males are wearing, full or long pants and everything else. And they tried to go back to that on Next Generation. The first couple episodes, they had men wearing the skirt style uniforms just to say, hey, look, that's a whole fashion thing, but it just couldn't get away from the fact that, it was meant to be something that was, of fashion in the 1960s. So that's what they were putting those women in. So
that's true. It's true. And it was the time. I mean, it was the 60s, and there was a lot of, segregation. There was a lot of people were smoking constantly, and it's like it was a completely different era than Star Trek stood out like a sore thumb because it was so clean and nice, and people were generally pleasant with each other, even though from the time it was pretty pedestrian, right?
Yep.
In that sense. But so it's all well and good to look back at 2020 hindsight and all that kind of stuff and be critical of it. But it's funny. So let's give the spoiler warning now, because I'm going to talk about something that was in last week's show, and that was that we talked about, you raised the issue about race and about what do you call it?
Sexuality,
diversity.
Yeah.
Inclusion, let's call it. About the fact that two of the main characters who were introduced were visible minorities and female, and were killed off within I don't even think they made it through the episode they were introduced in, right?
Yeah, four episodes, they got rid of two women of visible minorities, and
right, and they've established that the Captain Saru takes over for the missing captain. What's his name again?
Lorca.
For the missing Captain Lorca, and he becomes the captain of the ship, right? And as soon as Michael Burnham, who is again another visible minority, kicks up a fuss about the treatment of the tardigrade, he sends her to her room.
Yeah. That's also not a great moment for progressive Star Trek.
I know. So here it is. So that's the elephant in the room, and that's what she sort of said. Let me see what she said. She said, I think they were messing with last night's show was equally misogynistic, sending Michael with a man's name to her room to sulk while the boys figure out how to defy Saru's order. Saru's order? It's classic treatment of women. I might have to boycott Discovery soon if they don't fix this friggin' attitude, quote unquote. That's kind of interesting. That's a very valid point. We're 7 episodes in, 6 episodes in, right? And they've already insulted women, insulted miserable minorities. Their track record isn't very good so far. What do you think?
Yeah, I got to say, there are a few things you could quibble with over the tone overall, as far as whether it's sort of keeping in theme with where we've been in Star Trek shows in the past. But again, I was certainly, I took note when I first saw that they had introduced the security officer, and she was an Indian woman. I thought that's great, and it was somebody I recognized from obviously she was on Battlestar Galactica. And I was like, oh, I like her, and to have her killed off, I got to be honest, I wasn't surprised when they killed off Michelle Yeoh's character, because she is a legitimate film star, and having her be on the show for a long term, especially when it was a fast moving plot, to have her character die in the second episode wasn't a huge shock, but I thought that it kind of struck me that maybe they were trying to do what Joss Whedon did so well with Serenity, and spoiler warning for anybody who hasn't seen Serenity, I know that like me, you're a big fan of that.
Tammy hasn't seen Serenity yet. She's only watched Firefly, but
so Serenity, Joss Whedon, he kills off one character, and it's the obvious character. It's the character you expect to die. It's the one where you sort of say to yourself, well, okay, for all things, it's hard to take, but it's also an extraneous character for all things being equal. But then he also also kills off another major character in a very unexpected twist. And it sets up this brilliant scene where our heroes are overwhelmed, the bad guys are at the gates, everybody gets hurt in some capacity. It looks like some of them might be fatal. And you honestly find yourself sitting there thinking, is this going to go Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid? Are all these characters going to get wiped out? And I don't know that it's, in the case of Discovery, maybe they were going to, kill off a character in the 4th episode just to say, hey, this is not your regular Trek. Stuff happens on a starship. People die. This is real. We're really grounding this. This is the reality of life during wartime and life in space and sacrifice. But man, just, think a little bit about who you're killing off and when you're killing them off. I mean, that's just bad optics.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, because I kind of envisioned, they've got the Sarek character coming and appearing to Michael Burnham in her head for all intents and purposes, because I guess his chakra has been transferred to her at some point. I think he did a mind meld on her at one point. But spoiler again. But he when I heard that Michelle Yeoh was on this show, and I think even in the trailers leading up to the thing, she sort of said, I think it's time for you to go and have a command of your own kind of thing. Mm-hmm. I envisioned that she would go off to this other ship with Captain Lorca, and occasionally Michelle Yeoh would come, every 6 months or whatever, and just
that's legit. I would have seen that,
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like she could go out. She didn't have to get killed off. She could just go off with her own ship or get assigned to a new ship or become an admiral like Janeway, right? Yep. And just sort of beam in every now and then when we want to go, oh look, it's Janeway. But that's kind of what I sort of thought they were setting up, but to have her just done and again, well, it sort of implies it's almost like about money, right? Really, the salary, right?
I mean, maybe I view things through a bit of a jaded prism, and obviously, we're very close, and my affection for Hollywood tropes. There are certain things you can predict just by understanding how Hollywood works and how things end up shaken out because of things like budgets and some of those concerns. Sometimes the writing's on the wall, but at the same time, I think her character didn't die without purpose. Her character died in a valiant way, trying to do the right thing. Her death sets up this redemption arc for Michael Burnham in a very nice way. I honestly didn't. I mean, I think it would have been very good for Star Trek to have had, this person be an emblematic figure in this universe for a long period of time. Hopefully they will have more representation from characters of minorities and women going forward. Hopefully this is not the last Asian captain we see of a starship going forward.
Second. Yeah.
Well, yeah, of course. Kaoru Sulu. Hopefully we'll see more of this, but, I don't feel like her character's arc was as just wasteful as I think we saw last week in losing our chief of security in what was just arguably one of the silliest sudden deaths in a Star Trek episode.
Which guy was wasteful?
It was the chief of security, and I'm
Rekha Sharma.
Yeah, Rekha Sharma. Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, okay. So again, it's that one just left a bad taste. She died for essentially no reason, doing something that was dumb, and again, just bad optics coming 2 episodes after what they had done previously. And I understand why people were upset losing that character right off the hop, but 2, it just leaves a bad taste in your mouth.
And she was such a central character in Battlestar Galactica. She was all the way through the whole series, right? And even had a sort of one of the twisty plot points near the end of Battlestar that she played a role in that too. But I do think it's really interesting that they've the redemption arc, as you called it, where they've risen up our opinion of Michael Burnham, as being the number one in this ship, and the one that goes off and does the exploration with the sort of the Spock moment with getting in the personal craft and going off and checking out V'ger or whatever.
Yeah, that was a real nice little throwback for the 5 people that like that movie.
Yeah, but then to knock her down so low, she's below a cadet, right? You can't get any lower on an Enterprise, right? So so that was, but so now she's got this sort of she's like the underdog. She's like represents all of us trying to climb up, through our lives and get to a point of high power, right? Or status, if you will, right? Because I mean, being the second in command of a starship gives you a lot of status, right? So in that kind of universe. But anyway, all right, let's move on. So we're talking about Discovery, or should we talk about? Let's do one last. Let's do the continues as a pick, I guess, right? I'm just gonna move that down here. All right. So what am I saying? Yeah. So we're talking about Discovery Choose Your Pain, which is the episode number 5. What are we at? 5? Yes,
5.
Must be 5.
Episode
Choose
5.
Your Pain, and of course we find out pretty quickly what Choose Your Pain was. But I just a couple of points here. I made observations. One was that we need more tardigrades because we've now discovered that tardigrades are the secret to this thing. And I think the Admiral tells Captain Lorca that we need more tardigrades, which is kind of funny, especially when you consider how the episode ends, right? But and he's sort of the my ship, my way kind of thing, and whatever. But the story point here is he gets stolen away into Klingon territory and meets up with Harcourt Fenton Mudd. Right?
Barry Mudd back in the Star Trek universe. Yeah,
and of course he drops his eye pen when he gets taken away. So of course the Klingons can then take advantage of him by using light. But there was one point, I can't remember where it was, but there's a list of captains of note. Where was that? I can't remember.
So at one point, Saru goes to the computer, and he's trying to have the computer
Siri. Let's call her Siri. Yeah.
Yeah. Have the computer make a list of the captains that are considered the best in Starfleet, and so he can emulate their behavior patterns so that he can be a better captain while he's acting in place of Lorca. And of course, the computer starts listing this list of captains. So they list Christopher Pike, they list Jonathan Archer, they list Matt Decker, who was in the original series. They list Robert April, who's of course from the animated series, and they list
and the book,
and Philippa Georgiou, of course. Although apparently that list hadn't been updated. And yeah, nice little throwback for people who are want this to fit into the continuity in nice organized form. At this point, theoretically, Captain Pike is captain of the Enterprise, although maybe just before he gets the Enterprise.
Right. So I guess Archer was the first captain of the Enterprise, because I know Robert April was the captain when Kirk was a cadet.
Right. So yeah, I mean, the first Enterprise, the captain was Jonathan Archer.
Oh, okay. And then Robert April would have come after him, right?
Yeah, and it was a different Enterprise at that point too, right?
The B or whatever.
I'm not sure what the naming structure is there. I'm sure there's some Trekkie throwing things at his podcast voice now,
yelling at his phone.
It's clearly this serial number. Yeah, sorry.
No, I think it's 1701A was the first one, I believe, in Enterprise, right? So,
yeah.
Although, why would they know to name it A?
Yes.
So,
don't pull those threads.
Come unraveled. Yeah. So they end up on a particularly nasty prison vessel. I don't know why I put those two words together, but there you go. Particularly nasty.
It was particularly nasty. Any place where "choose your pain" is the company motto, probably not go well for the people you're in a cell with.
Yeah, that's an interesting way of doing that. Like the whole, they won't to prevent them from bonding with each other. That's what they say, that you get to pick whether you get the pain or the guy next to you gets the pain, and that sort of builds up enemies really quickly. I do want to ask though, and coming back to when they go back to the ship and Saru and crew decide to go in and rescue the captain.
Yep.
Black alert. What is the black alert about? I mean, I know this is like the third or fourth time we've seen that, but we used to have red alert. That was supposed to be the highest alert that one could be in Star Trek, but I guess black alert is...
I think black alert is supposed to let them know that they are about to activate the spore drive.
Right, okay, right.
Because clearly it is a completely different way of travel. I think it's supposed to give people the idea of, hey, this is going to go pear-shaped for a little bit. The ship's going to start spinning around like a top and disapparating into... it's funny now that I connect the dots there that they have the disapparating ship halfway as the captain, but it doesn't
jump into the boot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, into the fireplace. Yeah, it is an interesting phenomenon, and I don't know. They haven't really gotten into that. I mean, objectively, if the ship starts spinning around like that, people are turned into grape jelly because there's no way to prevent inertia from turning you into a sphere on the wall. But somehow it works.
Is, after all, a displacement activated spore hub drive.
Well, and not having studied that in high school physics, I think clearly I'll defer to their knowledge, but it does seem like a pretty radical system. So I guess the idea is that when they go to Black Alert, if you're in an area that is going to be used for this, spore drive, obviously you have to, protect yourself or move yourself to a safe location. Go to a battle station like you would for a Red Alert. You go to your Black Alert station.
And 11 in Star Wars world, when the ship's about to do something really dangerous, the thing to do is sit in your chair and put both hands on the armrest and hang on, because that's going to hold you in place, right?
Yeah, just that line. Reach around behind yourself and kiss your butt goodbye. Yeah,
yeah, I guess. So we meet a new character in the prison that helps escapes with Lorca.
Yeah,
and that's another spoiler. But Lieutenant Ash Taylor, and he's originally from the USS Jaeger, which of course Jaeger is the guy who flew faster than the speed of sound.
Yeah, absolutely,
Chuck Yeager. But so and I think he's going to stick around too because he comes back to the ship with them, right? And now the Battle of the Binary Planets actually has a name of the Battle of the Binaries, they call it, right? So,
Battle of the Binaries, yeah.
Right. So yeah, interesting stuff. So we got our first F-bomb on this episode.
Two F-bombs.
Two of them. Which was the first? I missed one. One was by our cadet, right?
Yeah. So first we hear her say, she says, "This is so." Can I say the word? Am I allowed to say the word in your podcast?
Don't say it because we have to.
So she says, "This is so cool."
You can say F-bomb or whatever.
Okay. She says, "This is so F-bombing cool," and then everybody stops and looks at her, and then the chief engineer looks back at her and says, "No, you're right, cadet. It is cool."
Oh, right. Yes, right.
So perhaps a tad extraneous in its usage. I don't know. It honestly felt like they could have just turned to the camera and winked at that point. For my, it seemed gratuitous. This isn't your parents, Star Trek. We said the F word twice. Yeah.
So, yeah. It doesn't shock me, but I'm sure it shocked me from the point of view is I never would have expected to hear that in a Star Trek episode of any type, right?
No. And I remember, it was that same sensation, of people from my generation. Transformers, the movie came out in, I think it was 1986 or 87, 86, I think.
Shia LaBeouf?
No. I'm talking original animated. This was the original animated film came out, and there was a great scene that we loved when we were, 12-year-old boys, where one of the main characters says S-H-I-T. And it just, we were like, in a Transformers cartoon, this guy said this word.
Yeah.
And in that same, slightly juvenile way, when they started cussing on Star Trek, it was just like, I don't know who they're trying to titillate with use of that word. Now, I know Data in one of the Star Trek movies says that same word, S-H-I-T. He says that when the ship starts to crash, I think, in Generations. In Generations, he says it.
Right, okay.
So it's not the first time we've heard profanity in this world, but it's clearly the first time we've heard that escalated level of profanity. And I think I want to say J.J. Abrams' first Star Trek movie, I think at some point one of them says bull, S-H-I-T. But no one's ever dropped an F-bomb in Star Trek before. And
yeah, it's a high bar or low bar.
And it's just, I think it's another thing. So here's somewhere I wanted to go on my look at this week's episode. And it comes back to, and we'll once again throw the spoiler alert out there. If you haven't seen this episode, we're going to, get into the muck here. So what did you make of Captain Lorca making the decision to leave Harry Mudd as a prisoner of the Klingons with no way to escape?
Well, it is Harry Mudd after all, right? And I think that, even in the two episodes that he dealt with Captain Kirk, Kirk was never super kind to him, right? Like in that sense. But I don't think...
But there's a fine line between not being nice to him and leaving him on a Klingon prison.
Yeah, I mean, leave it like the one episode where the Harry Mudd has the robot women, or the robot planet, Kirk makes his wife into a robot and has her chase him around, but she's particularly naggy or whatever. But
yes,
but yeah, I was actually surprised at that, but I didn't really think too much about it because it is Harry Mudd after all. He will survive somehow.
It's true. We know that's the thing. We can make the presumption that he lives because we've seen him 10 years later.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So it's not like we think at that point Lorca just left that guy to die because we know he lives.
I didn't really think about that too long. Now now that you say that.
But I found myself thinking, okay, there's two interpretations. One is that we're supposed to infer from that Lorca is a cutthroat, that Lorca is a bad guy. I think we've been on to that he's willing to imprison this tardigrade.
My ship, my way. Yep.
My ship, my way. This is war, and I will do whatever it takes to end this war and
win this war. Win this war.
Absolutely. So we can either infer from this that this guy is not your Star Trek captain that you're used to. This is clearly not a person who lives.
A wartime captain, yeah, for sure.
This is a wartime captain who says, you know what, this guy just tried to, screw me and this guy over. He can rot and die, and I don't care. And maybe that's what we're supposed to infer from this is that, Lorca's a bad guy, and that lends itself to that whole Michael Burnham is the hero of the story, and of course she's got this redemption arc. She's already questioning, the decision to have the tardigrade and use it the way they want to use it. The other, I guess, way to interpret this is, this is a cynical version of this Star Trek universe. Like, that's a dark choice.
Sure, yeah.
To have somebody left behind on a place where we have established that the Klingons are torturing / killing dozens. And Lorca says himself, at one point, again, we're still in the spoiler country here, but he says, I killed my entire crew of my last ship to avoid Klingon torture for my crew.
Yeah,
but he's leaving this guy behind.
Yeah.
So what he's saying is, like, I hate you so much for what you just tried to do to me and this other guy that I'm going to leave you to what I was willing to murder my ex-crew to avoid. That's a bleak Star Trek choice. Like, that's you're right. This is not your grandfather's Star Trek. Like, wow, this has some dark choices.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think I was just caught by both of those moves. And at this point, I'm choosing to view the former, not the latter. I think the former is that we're supposed to infer from that Lorca is just a guy not to be trifled with. He is in war, and he is not taking a chance. He's not bringing Harry Mudd back with him because Harry Mudd can't be trusted. And if he can't trust him, then he'd rather this guy died being tortured to death than have him on his ship and mess up his plans to win this war.
Well, see, I kind of come at it from. I think the reason. I mean, and I didn't read into it that deeply because, like, I don't have that sixth sense that you have with plots, right? But
is that sixth or sixth?
Sixth sense, yes. But for those of you who don't know, I mean, Jonathan and I go to see a lot of movies, and I'll turn to him halfway through the movie, and I go, "Did you see that coming?" He says, "Yeah, like an hour ago." But anyway, so I kind of sort of saw him as well. The two of them have to like really work to get off this ship, right? And Harry Mudd would drag them behind, like he would be a thorn in their side, right? So that's I think part of the reason why he would have left them behind. The other reason is because clearly Harry Mudd has a relationship with the Klingons already, so he's going to survive. I mean, like I didn't see him being left to his death. I saw him being left to like he might get beat up a bit, kind of thing, or
Yeah, and as we know, like I say, the cheat for Star Trek fans is we know Harry Mudd lives, so we know that he's not going to die. So Lorca's instantly off the hook. We know that he might get beat up more. He'll find a way to survive. He's Harry Mudd. We've seen him in 10 years later, and he's got a fancy mustache, and he's fine.
And yet, by the time he gets to the first time we see Harry Mudd in the next, again, this is the whole sort of continuity problem that I have with going back and doing prequels and trying to fit them into these stories. Is Harry Mudd doesn't even know who the Federation is when Kirk and Spock show up, and he's got the three women for the miners, right?
Yeah, well, maybe it was beaten out of him by the Klingons in this episode.
Maybe they forgot. Yeah, maybe they
just a couple more blows to the head, and he had completely lost what the Federation was.
That's true. It's true. Yeah, for sure. So, two things I want to talk about. One that's not in the notes here, but one is so Michael Burnham all the way through the story is trying to defend the tardigrade as because she sees it getting weaker and weaker and weaker, and to the point where it actually shuts down, right? And so it kind of like tries to rehabilitate itself by self-healing and refusing to do what they need to do, right? But she, and the guy sort of says, just throw some water on her, rehydrate it and get it going again. And that was Saru that said that, right? But which is kind of surprising. But she, at the end of the episode, she lets it go, right? She puts it out into the universe and lets it be free. I mean, so that's kind of like Lucy with the conveyor belt of chocolates. All I thought through that was Lucy's going to get in such trouble, Lucy, you got some splaining to do, right?
Yeah.
But so Michael Burnham has got some splaining to do when they get back and find out that they can't use their spore drive because their pilot or the thing that gets them out of the jam is gone. Mind you, I guess they can do short jumps, right? With the
well, I mean, again, again, it depends on how willing the chief engineer is to have himself.
Right, that's right. That's
full of holes too, because Stamets, of course, for the final scene when they're trying to jump away from the Klingons, they've rescued Lorca and Taylor, of course. They need. Saru tells them, like, "Are we ready to go? Let's go. Let's get out of here before we get shot up by the Klingons." And of course, they transport out of there using their spore drive, but it's not the tardigrade; it's Stamets hooked up to the machine.
Right. And he's injected himself with their DNA, which is something you do every day, right? So,
well, as you would. He says he always wanted to talk to mushrooms.
Right. So, okay, so that brings us to, because my last point was the one that is in the notes, is about the, and again, spoiler warning for people who haven't seen the episode, but at the very end of the episode, there's sort of a disconnect between Stamets and his mirror image in the mirror when they're brushing their teeth, as you do, right? With the electronic toothbrushes that they don't move around or whatever. But the new waterless toothbrush.
When was the last time you ever did that with your partner, by the way? I mean,
never.
I thought that was a really...
Maybe university, I think,
I thought it was a wonderful scene in that they had him there with the doctor, and we are supposed to understand that he and Wilson Cruz, is Hugh Culber is the character's name, are partners, husbands. They don't really establish that, but they're clearly together and they're clearly a couple. And again, great progressive thing. We're seeing this, and they didn't feel the need to have them kiss to establish that they're gay.
I know.
This is great. This is so what we.
To be honest, sort of part of me was going, "Don't kiss, don't kiss."
Don't kiss. I was doing the same thing.
But then they didn't do it. I'm like, what the hell, man?
They don't need to kiss for me to know that they're a couple. It's just extraneous. Thank God they didn't go there. Kudos, Star Trek, for not going there. We didn't need to see it. It would have been absolutely ridiculous and pointless. I'm so glad they didn't do that. Now, that being said, the whole time I kept thinking, who brushes their teeth right next to their partner? That's just weird.
Yeah, I know. Exactly.
Yeah. But the mirror thing, boy, that was neat. Creepy, very unexpected moments. Immediately, of course, as a Star Trek fan, your mind goes to, Mirror Universe, which
is right. Mirror. Yep.
Mirror, fantastic ongoing storyline, started in the original series and continued through, of course, all the ones through the 80s and 90s.
So they did that in Deep Space Nine. They had that whole Mirror Universe in Deep Space Nine, but because I guess they got bored with hanging around on the station, which was kind of a dumb plot to begin with.
Yeah.
But was it in The Next Generation or Voyager or Enterprise?
I think it was. Let me just we'll do our real-time look here, but okay. I think they did that in a few different cases here. Let's see. Let's look it up on the fly here. I'm almost sure I have a very deep memory of them doing it on Voyager. I know they did it on Voyager.
They did?
Yeah.
What was the story there? Or Voyager? What was the story there?
I seem to recall Chakotay with like an eye patch or something at some point. Again, I haven't rewatched that.
Well, he had that tattoo thing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know they did it on Deep Space Nine because that was a recurring thing, and that was fun.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because Ensign Ro she was one of the Rebellion Star Trek or Federation Rebellion people who got thrown in jail, and so was Tom Paris. Right, that's why she went and got Thomas Paris at the beginning of the story.
Yeah,
they never really went anywhere with that whole Tom Paris being one of those. What were those evildoers called? I can't remember that.
Oh, yes, the rebels. The
Alliance. I don't know.
No, they had a name. Oh, again, I feel like in order to stick with this podcast, I'm going to go back and rewatch 400 episodes of Star Trek to get my game back on. It's been a few years since I've...
wait.
Yeah, I was going to say, how much time do I have in the week? So, apparently they didn't do any TNG episodes. It was original series, they did 2, and Deep Space Nine, they did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Enterprise, they did 2, and Voyager must have been something... I must be thinking of something else for Voyager. Maybe.
Okay, so what 2 did they do in the original series? I remember Spock with Kirk with the killer machine, and Spock lets them go or whatever.
Apparently it was they tied Tholian Web. They remember the Tholian Web episode, of course.
Yeah.
They tied that in with one of the books. Apparently that's. I'm just looking up the our good friends here at Wikipedia.
So did they mess up the Tholian? Have you seen the new high res version of Tholian Web? I haven't watched it yet.
As we established in one of my corrections a few weeks ago, I own the original first DVD wave of Star Trek episodes. So they've been cleaned up and put on DVD for the first time, but they have not gone back back and made any modifications, and I have officially boycotted the remastered,
whatever. Yeah.
Res.
So are they 4:3 proportion like they have?
They are 4:3, as are my TNGs, as are several of my other original. I have them all on DVD still. Obviously the quality lacks a little bit at times, and the effects don't necessarily hold up quite as well. But this seems to be a recurring theme for this podcast, but it's the truth is that sometimes you just want to see it the way you saw it, so that you can enjoy it the way you enjoyed it. And when it comes to that TNG stuff, and it comes down to Deep Space Nine, when it comes back to those original Star Trek episodes, I don't need bells and whistles. I want to remember it the way I remember it. So for my money, I don't really see myself upgrading any of those sets anytime soon, unless they're willing to do what they did with James Bond. Go back, do me a remaster, and just do a frame by frame cleanup of exactly what you had, and show me that again with some of the dust specks taken off. I'm ready for that. But in this case, I like what I've got.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot to get my For All Mankind. Have you got my For All Mankind Blu-ray?
I don't think so. I am holding onto your copy of Solaris till at least, what are you now? You're 57, so
Solaris?
75. So Solaris, isn't that the one you gave me, Solaris? No, it's what's the one that you said came out the year before Star Wars?
Journey to the Far Side of the Sun.
Journey to the Far Side of the Sun.
It's by Jerry Anderson, the guy who did the Marionation stuff for Thunderbirds and things like that.
Yeah. Did you get that link I sent you, by the way? I sent you they're doing more of those fine marionette puppet show.
Yeah. Captain Scarlet. I had the Captain Scarlet vehicle, but again, that was me watching Captain Scarlet because Thunderbirds wasn't on the air anymore. I watched Thunderbirds when I lived in England, right? So that's where the connection came from.
Yeah.
So, yep.
So you want to throw down on the Orville, or we all
let's do. We got to do the Orville real quick. It looks like, because I don't know how long we've been going here, for an hour and a bit anyway.
Yep.
So again, the spoiler warning so we're going to talk about the episode 6, the Krill BQ episode. Krill episode.
The Krill BQ.
Yes, Krill BQ. So it starts off with Bortus can eat many things.
That was a very good scene. That was very funny.
So that was sort of meant to be the cold opener, I guess, like they do on Big Bang Theory.
Yep.
Just establish some humor or whatever. So yeah, it was kind of weird that this whole setting up of the Krill society as being on a holy crusade, basically that anybody who didn't believe what they believed was not fit to live or whatever, and that was their whole thing. But I guess in a good way. What's our captain's name again? Ed what? With an M.
Mercer.
Captain Mercer and the first Captain Mercer and what's his sidekick buddy name? Gordon. They go and try and get a hold of this Ankana, which is, they refer to it as their Bible in the book, which I take offense with myself, because it's their holy book, if you want to call it that. It's funny, I mentioned, I don't know if it was on this show or whatever, but I was in Judy for at the beginning of October, I guess. October. And I didn't get selected for jury, but we went into the courtroom and they actually had 6 books there, right? Yeah. And you could decide whether you want to put your hand on your holy book and testify that you would tell the truth based on your faith, or you could just say that I will attest that that you're not going to use.
You can make an affirmation. I've done jury duty a couple times, and that's the route that I've had to take. I really wanted to go up there and see what those 6 books were, because there was the Bible, the Quran, I guess the Bhagavad Gita or whatever the Talmud.
Talmud, what's Talmud?
That's Jewish, I believe.
Oh, Talmud, right? Sorry. Yeah, and then so that's 4, or is that 5? So we had Bible, Quran. What did I say? Bhagavad Gita. You said Talmud, right?
Yep.
And what were the other 2?
That's an excellent question.
The L. Ron Hubbard compendium.
Oh, Dianetics. There's got to be a copy of Dianetics in there. That just goes without saying.
Yeah.
In case Tom Cruise is coming by to do some swearing on a holy book, he needs his copy of Dianetics.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I don't know, Old Testament and New Testament, in case you're.
Yeah. Well, no, I don't know. Well, Yeah. Which version of the Bible? Maybe the Anglican Bible, like the King James Bible, and the New Testament. Maybe, I don't know. That's just weird.
Yeah, they have like a.
We could Google that. We'll look it up later.
I'm just looking up holy books right now. There are apparently a lot. Satanic Bible, of course. The Anton LaVey Satanic Bible. That's got to be up there.
Yeah. Well, I guess Ankana must have been one of the other books up there for the Krill, in case the Krill came into court, right?
Absolutely.
So I put down what now? ? Oh yes, I think it was Captain Captain Mercer at one point said, "What now?"
What now?
Yeah, like when somebody asked him a question and he said, "What now?" Like, so they have these little transporter or transformer devices. I forget what they called them, but allows them to sort of generate a mask for themselves to make them look like Krill.
Yep.
Of course, why would the Krill carry that technology? I don't get that part. I have to go back and watch the episode. But so anyway, at one point in the conversation, he is saying, as a Krill person, somebody asks him a question and he says, "What now?" Like, wouldn't that be a dead giveaway that this guy's a Krill?
Yeah. You know? Yeah, they don't do a really good job. I mean, even the conversation, of course, Ed and Gordon have about, what kind of weird names they must have, where they're trying to figure out what they're going to name themselves. And, of course, they come up with great lines like Hagen-Dazs, and they're trying to figure out how they could pick these exotic Krill names. And of course, they pick Chris and Devin, which makes for some good humor. These are unfamiliar names to us.
Right, yes.
And of course, Gordon cannot let go of the name of the Lord, the sacred deity of the Krill people, Hertz.
Right. And he gets car jokes,
a series of rental car jokes that just cannot, he cannot resist the urge, in spite of his captain saying, "Stop it, knock it off." But yeah, very, very funny stuff.
Yeah. So.
Avis. Sorry, it's Avis. That's right. Avis is the god, not Hertz.
Oh.
Avis is the god, and right. Hertz, he just, of course, when they're talking about what god the humans worship, they worship Hertz. That's the joke.
Right.
I wrote that down and I got them mixed up. That's, just fish in a barrel, but a lot of fun.
So I made a comment here about space vampires, but I can't remember why I wrote that down.
Space vampires, because they burn in the sunlight, apparently.
Oh, yes, right, yes.
Barbecue, Krillbarbecue.
That was the solution to them, was open up the windows and let the light in, right? Or turn the light up, or full blast of you.
And again, a nice little, some people have made the argument, and, we can debate this, but some people are saying that the Orville's doing a better job of Star Trekking than Star Trek at this point.
Really?
That's a good little Star Trekky, little plot line. You got to save the kids. It was innocent. We got to stop these guys from nuking the humans, but we got to save the kids. Kids are innocent. That's a very Star Trek quandary.
Right. But interesting that point that they make at the end there, that these kids are going to grow up to resent you because you killed their parents, right? So
yep. Which again is that same the moral quandaries of Star Trek. You can make an argument at this point that in spite of the nonstop run of testicle jokes and some of the other Seth MacFarlaneisms, they're doing a pretty good Star Trek impression. This show runs awfully true to that Star Trek feeling.
Yeah, no, for sure. And the kids growing up to hate Kirk or to hate Mercer is like Botany Bay incident, where he leaves the survivors, Khan, etc., on the planet, and then something happens, the sun goes nova or whatever, and then of course they grow up to resent Kirk for abandoning them now on this destitute planet, right? So SETI Alpha 9 or 5?
5. Yeah.
SETI Alpha 5. Yes.
Yeah. It's just fun to say. It really is.
Yeah. Did you know that was really Ricardo Montalban's chest?
That was really Ricardo Montalban's chest?
Yeah. That wasn't a prosthetic. It was actually his flesh and blood chest.
That is a buff dude.
I know. He was like, in his 60s when he did that, right?
Yeah. Well, he had to be up there. Yeah. Wow. That's pretty impressive.
Amazing. That's amazing.
I always assumed that was some sort of, makeup prosthetic.
No. Yeah. Because he had like the necklace, right? So it looked like maybe it was that's a body armor kind of thing. Yeah. No, that was really real flesh and blood chest. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Well done, Ricardo. That's impressive.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, do you want to, are we all finished with our Orville review this week? I thought it was a fun episode. Probably
it was a good
episodes they've done so far.
It was the most Star Trek-y episode. I will grant you that one for sure. Yeah.
Well, they hired all those guys who were playing Jem'Hadar's like 10 years ago that were out of work. So that was nice of them. And,
that's true.
There and
But were they disguised as Jem'Hadar's, or were they weren't carrying those transformer packs that make you look like, those shields or whatever?
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about our picks. So, are we going to have time to dig into this one now that we've wasted all this time? Anyway, so one of the picks I put on here was, and it had more to do with Jaime. We were chatting through the week, and I was watching, I think Inner Space, which is a show on Space Channel here that does their magazine show about what's coming up and coming in sci-fi and gaming and that kind of stuff, comic books.
Yep.
They did a episode where it was all about the convention. So AJ Fry? AJ Fry went down to the game of the E3 for gaming, and he went down to San Diego for Comic-Con. I think Teddy's been running around doing the big train series, which is kind of cool, kind of Sheldon-esque. Yeah. But at one point they were interviewing a guy who's they said was Captain Kirk, and I thought, oh, spoiler, this is going to be Captain Kirk on the new show, because somebody sort of had said that Kirk was going to appear at some point on the show. Maybe it was you, I'm not sure. But so I looked this guy up, and now I can't remember his name. But apparently there actually is a show, a show called, and it's on the internet, called Star Trek Continues. And it's filmed in the same style as the original series, right? They wear the same uniforms. They have characters, they have a Spock character, they have a McCoy character, they have a Scotty character, they have an Uhura, they have a Kirk, obviously, and this gentleman, I can't remember his name right now, but I will click on the cast button here on this website, and it'll tell Vig Mignola. Mignola. Yeah, I'm going to go with Mignola. Mignola? I don't know. Vic. But anyway, he's one of the writers of the series, right, as well. Oh, and Greg Irmahera from Mythbusters plays the Sulu character, right? So, yeah, I watched a bit of one of the first episodes, and it's if you can get past the fact that this isn't the right actors, it does have that same sort of sensibility of how the pacing of the show. You don't quite do the William Shatner kind of talk, but they come pretty close, and but it's actually pretty good, and it's been on for a number of years. It's been produced for a number of years, I guess. They've got, let me see here, they've got episode 10 is coming out soon. Why would episode 10 be called Too Bold to Go? Yeah, it's been on for a number of years. I looked at, I think 2013 is when it started. Had you ever heard of this?
No, I knew that there was a few sort of fan projects that were doing Star Trek projects for a few years, but I must admit I have not had the appetite to go hunt them all down. And I know there's been obviously a kerfuffle over a few of them, whether or not CBS would let them continue down those roads, whether they were allowed to represent that world. But no, I've never actually gone down and sat down and watched any of those.
Oh, interesting. Star Trek Continues Incorporated is a non-profit organization. Huh.
So maybe that's how they're allowed to.
Yeah, because they're not making money off this. Cool.
Yeah.
It's an interesting thing. I think people should check it out. It's actually not too bad. Yeah. Need to put, I mean, fans can let us know if they know anything about it more than we do. But
hashtag
there's a whole website here.
Spotcast.
Yes. Hashtag #AskSpotcast. Let us know what you think. Right. So yeah, it definitely does say here at the top in the disclaimer above everything else, it says, Star Trek and all related marks, logos, characters are solely owned by CBS Studios Incorporated.
Yeah, they're pretty strong about protecting that, but there's so much passion from the fans, and there's been such a gap in that world. I'm not including, of course, the Kelvin timeline movies that are in the theaters, but we haven't seen Star Trek on TV for a long time, so I know there was an appetite to go back and keep that world alive, especially as it was getting towards that 50th anniversary. I think people were were feeling that appetite to keep the spirit alive. I wonder. I must delve deeper into social media. I do like to wander around the fringes of social media and see how people are reacting to some of these things. I haven't really gotten too far into how people are reacting about Discovery, but I wonder how that's doing with people, because it is a much darker take, I think, on Star Trek than we've seen previously.
Yeah, I mean, I got to say that about this just to finish off on the Star Trek Continues, the set looks identical to the original set. So it's kind of like, how they get these R2-D2 builders, or the Doctor Who builders who build the Daleks and stuff like that. So obviously some real fans have gone in, and it's a funny thing about the first episode, they beam aboard this old couple, and the old guy is Apollo, and it's actually the guy who played Apollo on the original series. Yeah,
that's funny.
Yeah, it's kind of cool, but he's like an old guy now, right? Anyway, so it's like I guess the fans have gone and made these amazing sets, and the costumes look legit, and that kind of stuff. So it's really, really interesting looking redo. Even the engineering section, I'm just looking at some of the slides, images going by, the sick bay. Everything looks the same as the original series. So
cool. I will definitely check that one out.
Check it out. Yeah. So let's come back to the trailer if we have time. What's your pick for this week?
My pick for this week is a new comic. As I've been delving into the world of comics a little more earnestly again, trying to find some good selections for our listening audience. A new book from Image Comics called Maestros. Steve Skroce, S-K-R-O-C-E, is Canadian, who is he's been a comic creator for a long time. He also very infamously for comic fans was the storyboard artist for The Matrix.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he made his return to comics. He's been doing storyboarding for a lot of Hollywood projects and different things. He made his return to comics a couple of years ago with a great book that he did called We Stand on Guard with Brian K. Vaughan, who's one of my favorite comic writers. That was about set in the future, and it's when the Americans inevitably invade Canada.
Right.
And on Guard. It was a really fun little mini series, but it was really exciting because it was nice to see him getting back into this format again, because he's a very, very talented artist. Did a lot of work during the 90s for Marvel, X-Men specifically, drawing that book, and very popular. And then of course, a lot more pay if you move into the world of Hollywood, I'm sure. So he did that for a long time. But his new book Maestros is really good. It's basically about it plays on some of the tropes of science fiction and fantasy. It's about a guy named Will who was a little boy. He was raised by his mom. He finds out that his dad was essentially God. He was a wizard, an all-powerful wizard who helped create the universe. The story establishes that his father and his entire extended family has been killed, and he's been called back to this world that his father is from, that he had created, where there is this monstrous villain named Marduk who has risen up and has killed all his family, and of course now is coming for him. And he's on Earth working as a bit of a huckster. He's selling magic potions that increase penis size and have these nefarious effects. He's selling these to try and get by using his magic spells for as hucksterism basically. And so we get a little look into his backstory. We meet his mother. We find out about how he learned about his powers, and then we get set up for going back to this world where he's now apparently the heir to the throne, and is also on the precipice of civil war. And again, really, really fun stuff. Beautiful art. I mean, this man is just an outstanding sequential storyteller. And it's written and illustrated by him. And number one is just hitting the stands. And I would definitely recommend giving it a look. It's definitely for mature readers. It's a little gory. It's a little there's definitely some sexuality elements to it, obviously, growing erections and things like that. But it's an absolutely entertaining read, and I'm looking forward to the next few issues to see where the story goes.
Cool. All right. Yeah, so let's leave the Star Trek thing or Star Wars thing till next week. Yeah,
we have to get into the extremely obvious naming structure of the new Star Wars expanded universe movie, the Solo. Wow. I mean, man,
really?
Can I do one more pick? Can I do? I got one more pick.
Sure. What is that? Solo?
It's Solo. No. Ron Howard's Instagram feed. I recommend highly. You check it.
Really? Yeah.
No, I mean it's fantastic, and I do recommend people go there. But no, my pick would definitely be Star Wars Rebels is back as of this Monday. First two episodes of the fourth and final season just came on the air.
Final season.
Fourth and final season. They've announced this is the last season they're going to do of it. They had the sort of specific arc that they wanted to tell. They're getting closer and closer to where we would have joined the Rebel forces towards the original episode 4. And so they're going to wrap it up with a nice bow this year. They get to go out the way they want to go out, and for those of us who have been watching all along, it's going to be an exciting season. They really are amping up to a very familiar universe. We're starting to see more familiar characters, ships, locations. Darth Vader was a primary character in season 3. He was one of the looming big bads.
Sure.
And last season brought us another bunch of great Easter eggs. We saw some more characters from the original series, including a few iconic ones. Mm-hmm. So I'm personally really excited about the return of that and looking forward to.
So it was Rebel, and this is by that guy, Dave Filoni.
That guy with the hat. Yes, that guy with the hat. Yeah.
From WWDC.
Yeah.
So before there was Clone Wars, right?
There was Clone Wars. Yep.
And Clone Wars was what, before the last of the movies? Like
Clone Wars is set between episodes
2 and 3, right?
2 and 3, yes. So basically, the events of Clone Wars are wrapped up during that time span. So we're supposed to get a sort of gauge of the depths of that war that actually happens between the Trade Federation and the Galactic, not Empire yet.
Right, and Rebels fits between episode 3 and episode 4. Is that right? Or,
yes.
or Rogue One or whatever.
It is actually would have been just before Rogue One and just before episode 4. So we sort of start out maybe a couple of years before, and now we're getting closer to, we are seeing some overlap. Of course, there were some excellent little teasers in there for those of us who like Rebels. There was a few little teasers in Rogue One. They mentioned Hera Syndulla, who's of course the captain of the Ghost on Rebels, gets a call out at one point. They mention her name over the PA system in the hangar base on the moon of Yavin, and we see Chopper at one point strolls by, which is fantastic. And in one of those blink if you miss it episodes, one of those blink or miss it moments, we actually see the Ghost and the assemblage of ships in Rogue One, which is again a nice little Easter egg for those of us who have been following along for the last 3 seasons on Rebels. Mm-hmm. So we're catching up. We're getting there.
Interesting stuff. Yeah, I'll have to. I think I watched like the first bits of Clone Wars and never really got back into it. But
well, you know where you can find a copy of Blu-ray of all of the Clone Wars and the Rebels.
I think I actually have something here with Yoda on the side of it, sitting in front of my TV, waiting to be put into some sort of player of some type.
Yeah, waiting for that. What's that called again? Oh, Spare Time. That's right. I was looking for that Spare Time.
The elusive, something elusive, as Ewan McGregor says in the first movie. Spare time.
Spare time.
Yep. Well, I guess that's it for another week. So, hey, Jonathan, if people want to get a hold of you on interwebs, where would they look?
You can always find me on Twitter at JPK News, JPKNEWS, or JPKcomics.com.
All right. And so what is happening with JPK Comics? Has the blood surged into your veins and you're ready to dive in again? Or
speaking of spare time,
right.
The site is a tad poorly maintained. There are, for those people who are interested, there are almost 1,000 different things I've written about pop culture, comic book, science fiction, interviews with some of your favorite creators like Neil Gaiman and Alan Moore, Stan Lee. I was, of course, a pop culture journalist for a long time, so I've had an opportunity to meet some of these great people and talk to them. There's, I think, 30 or 40 different interviews I've done with different authors, Canadian creators like Seth, and it's really some really fun stuff that I'm very proud of, along with reviews of some books, some of my picks for top books of the year, all mixed in there. I do have an appetite, I must say. I've been enjoying the opportunity to have this little platform that you've given me to do a weekly pick, and maybe I'll be able to spin that into doing a little more content for there sometime in the near future.
You'll have to have you on Roundabout to talk about your whole comic reviewer arc, game reviewer arc, and then your days as a journalist professionally. And
yeah, there was a lot of fun stories in there. I was very fortunate I got a chance to do a little bit of video game work, lots and lots of comic work, pop culture. I got to go out to Hollywood. I got to go out to some of the great studios here in North America and meet some of the creators behind some of your favorite video games. Interview famous celebrities regarding some of their work, and live to tell the tale. So
yep, cool. All right, and as I always say at the top of the show, my name is Timitra, TIMMITRA on the Twitter machine. That's the best way to get a hold of me. And so I guess until next week, we'll say bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye. you want to find out more about the podcast or see episode show notes, visit the Spockcast website at spockcast.com. You can get in touch with us on the website or follow us on Twitter at Spockcast. If you have feedback or questions, send us a tweet with the hashtag AskSpockcast. If you like the show, please consider recommending us to a friend, writing a review on iTunes, or pledging any amount on patreon.com/Spockcast. You can find out details on how to help us out on our website at Spockcast/sponsor us. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the future. This episode goes out to our friend Gord, the Gord father.
Yeah,
Gord.
RP Gord.
Yep. All right. So, let's just dig in.
Are we going to do our check or
yeah? Let's do that
stuff you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
To do your fine intro and everything.
Yeah.
I don't want to feel like I'm getting shortchanged with the experience here.
No, we'll do it. Okay. I have here's the thing. I just upgraded my Bell service twice to the Bell 5 thing. So in the late summer, I upgraded to the next level of service, which, because I was having some issues with it and whatever. I can't remember why, but I upgraded it. And then I was looking online and I saw that, I was paying $89 and then I was paying an extra $30 for unlimited bandwidth because my bandwidth Carol and I, we're out of the house. I'm sure the dog and the cat were going online and looking at cat pictures and stuff, right? Because
pictures of mice and bones.
Gigabytes of data was being served from our house here for some reason, right? Or whatever, sent and received and all that kind of stuff, right? Which makes no sense. I do leave my computers on and I run a backup server and stuff like that, so that could explain it. But so anyway, I looked online and I saw for $99 I could get twice the internet speed, quote air quotes here, right? And unlimited bandwidth. And I sort of called up Bell and I said, hey, why am I paying you $120 a month when I could be paying you $99 a month for the same and better service?
Yeah.
And they went, yeah, you're right. We should do that for you, right? Of course, that gives them the lead in that they can get me to sell me on 5 TV, which is not going to happen.
Yeah.
So, because I remember when I first got the 5 thing, they said, okay, we're going to give you this modem here, but you won't be able to use it for 5 TV because 5 TV is not as fast as this modem, and blah blah blah. Right? Long story short, so they outsold themselves the last time. Anyway, I get this thing in, and the guy's here, and he runs a new fiber cable into my house. I have a fiber cable coming into my house now, right? Which used to cost thousands and thousands of dollars to put into people's houses. And ironically, right? So here we are in 2017, and I did a speed test while the guy was still here, and I was getting 160 megabits per second, which is phenomenal, right?
Yeah, that's crazy.
5 times, 10 times faster than I was getting before. Maybe 5 times. But and then lately, sometimes I check it and it's 16 or it's 25 or it's 30. I expect to get 25, 30, just kind of sort of what I was getting before. But yeah, why sometimes do I get 16 kilobits or megabits per second? It's what is up with that, right?
Yeah.
So and they say they don't throttle the network, right? So which I seriously don't believe.
I'm 100% sure that Rogers does the task. The boys will complain constantly about delays and slowdowns and stuff, and there's it can't be demand on the system. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah. It's ironically though, whenever I upload stuff, I upload shows and FTP files and apps to the App Store, they go up screaming fast, but it's coming down is the problem. And so yesterday we'll talk about the Gran Turismo in a bit too, which get into that too. But okay, so I pre-order Gran Turismo, the steel box, so I get the $1 million credit and some fancy car, which I haven't signed up and downloaded yet or whatever. But and I put the disc in, put the $80 disc into the machine, go to hit play, and it's oh, we need to do a network update. I'm okay, so I kind of skipped that and played a few, ran a few times around the track, did a couple of licenses and stuff like that. And then I came back to it and I went, okay, well, what's the deal with the download? And it's yeah, we got to do this network update for you to be able to play online and check out the online content. You can't here's the thing, you cannot save the game unless you log into PlayStation Network.
Wow,
let me say that again. You cannot save the game game unless you log into, because that wasn't clear the first time, right? WTF, right? So, especially for me, like how often do I turn my PlayStation?
You like save this game for the low price of $60 a year?
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, so that's the first. Well, no, that's not the PlayStation Plus thing. That's just you have to be logged in. So I don't know if you know this or not, but the two kids who each of them have an account on our machine here don't go on the internet with PlayStation.
Oh, okay.
Right? Like they use my account if they want to do it. But, they generally don't. We never bothered setting it up, or they use your account if they do it, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, but just so you know, when you get that big giant Visa bill, you'll know why.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So then I go, okay. I play the update game. I'm really good. The game that I get the most points for and most awards for is updating the system. I'm really good at that, right? It seems like, I play my PlayStation once every 6 months, and every single time I turn that stupid thing on, I got to wait for some stupid update, right? Anyway, so here I am with the screaming fast internet, which sometimes is fast and sometimes is slow. And I get in there and it says it wants to download a 12 gigabyte file, right? And it's going to take 3 hours, right? So, basically, toss the controller and go back to watching cable TV for, several hours, right?
Nice.
And of course, with the up and down internet, you never know how long it's going to take. So, I mean, that's the first thing that I'm screaming about. Well, let me continue the story now, since I said I would talk about it anyway. So I get in there and I'm like, okay, I finish the first license and I get myself a couple of cars and I go and do some other training things. I get myself a couple more cars and, I've got myself up to level 5, right? And then I thought, oh, well, let me go online and see what this online racing is about. And it's like, the first thing it says to me is you have to have a PlayStation Plus account to play online. And a friend of mine had said to me, don't download Battlefront 2, or if your grandkids want to get Battlefront 2, dissuade them from that, because you cannot do anything on that one without a PlayStation Plus account, right? So anyway, so here's Gran Turismo, brand new Gran Turismo Sport just came out yesterday. Arrived at my door as promised, but I cannot play against other people online unless I sign up for a PlayStation Plus account, which, when you consider I probably turn my PlayStation on once every 3 months, why would I pay for anything online, right?
Yeah, but by that same argument, why would you buy a brand new game that costs $90?
Yeah, exactly. Well, in this case, I buy it because of the title, right? Because, that's the only reason I have a PlayStation is to play Gran Turismo, seriously, right? Yeah. In my case, that and Tomb Raider. But, so I look at the thing and it's like, I think it's like a trial is like 2 days or 2 weeks or something, right? Try it for free. And I'm like, okay, well, let me buy it, get into that. So I push the button for the free trial or whatever. And I go in there and I think I made up a bogus email address and signed up, like a real bogus email address, a throwaway one that I have, right? Yeah. And I go online and I go to join a race, right? And it says the next race starts in 40 minutes. I mean, that's exciting, right? I get to wait 40 minutes while this screen loads for me to play this stupid game. Oh, they'll email me when the race is ready if I want, right? What? Like WTF again? So, so anyway, if I go back and I look around and there's another race that's starting in a few minutes, right? So there's 4 guys in this race. And so I join the race. I'm there with my, the car I got for free from PlayStation. Like the game's been out, like, how many hours has it been out, right? And I'm there with my Audi TT, which is what you get as your first car, right? And I haven't touched it. I haven't souped it up or whatever. So I go to join this race and I get in there and there's like 2 guys with like $1 million, like F1 style cars, all souped with custom paint jobs and all souped up and whatever. And the other guy had like a fairing or something on his car, like it was jacked up or whatever, right? And we're driving on the oval track because that's the only race that I could get into, like, in a few minutes just to try it out, right? And I'm telling you, like, what a waste of time. Like, as soon as you put your foot on the gas, those guys are gone, right? Yeah. They're the only reason they have this. They go and get themselves like $1 million car, and then they just want to kick people's ass all night long, right? Like, I'm sorry, like, and I cannot figure out how the hell do you get out of PlayStation Plus? So the next game I want to play is let's cancel the PlayStation Plus thing. Sure. There is nowhere in the interface that I could find to cancel PlayStation Plus.
Yeah, it's like The Godfather 3. Once you get out, you get out,
dragging you back
in. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, yeah. Like, I think it's PlayStation business model.
Yeah, I don't get it. I mean, like, I know the kids are totally into this stuff, and like that's their life and whatever. And to be honest with you, if I didn't have 1,000 other things to do at night, like podcast development and production and stuff, and app development and things. Mind you, I did play Gran Turismo for like a good couple of hours last night. That's how much I like the game, right? But still, I'm tempted to call Amazon back and say, hey, what's your refund policy on this game? Because I'm not paying, like, was it $60 a year you said?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Well,
that's not bad, but still, like, I'm not going to play it every freaking day, right? So I'm not going to play it every month. So why would I bother? This whole. I've complained about this on the other podcast all the time, but this death by 1,000 cuts, or what my friend Greg calls it, subscription fatigue. You just like, how many times can you pay $5 a month for one thing after another? Eventually, you're paying hundreds of dollars per month for nothing, right?
Yep. Yeah. Honestly, if I didn't have two teenage-ish sons, it wouldn't be worth it. I think that because we have an Xbox account and we have a PlayStation account. I like the PlayStation stuff because it's nice. It gives you access to some games and stuff, and you can do some extra little things and stuff like that in some of the games. But yeah, I'm not sure that it's worth the money for somebody who's got a full-time job and a part-time job on top of that and everything else. It's just
it's a time suck to begin with already, right?
Yeah, mind you. Now that being said, in the same way that you play Gran Turismo, I play Uncharted and I play Everybody's Golf and I play some of those Sony exclusive titles that are amazing. And when they come out, I play them and I play them and I play them, and then I put them on a shelf and I don't play them again for a while. So if what you're paying for is like a plus on top of those games which you love and you will play, then I guess you have to decide whether that's factored into the cost. But the problem is it's $90 for a game, Canadian dollars now. Throw another $60 on top of that. If you only play 1 or 2 games a year, it's awfully hard to make that commitment.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, I figure I paid $90. I should be able to play the game. Like, that's kind of. I realize that's an old person talking here, right? But
yeah, that only works if you still buy them by the cartridge. The last game that I played earnestly, now that I've been playing Everybody's Golf, which is the Japanese title of traditional, what is North America, Hot Shots Golf. Which,
right.
As you know, okay. I was and have always been a large fan of. They just put out a PS4 version, first PS4 Hot Shots Everybody's Golf game. So I've been playing that, and luckily both my sons have adopted that too. So it's become a family game, which is really fun. But the last game that I really played, and it's a cartoony game, so there's only so much you can do. It looks fantastic, but it's a cartoon. The last game that I played that really took advantage was the most recent Uncharted game, and it's breathtaking. It's breathtaking. It's like playing a film. It's so detailed. It's so well done. And I think like, okay, they're still going to keep getting better at this. It's remarkable that they're going to keep getting better at this.
Yeah, it's funny that the Gran Turismo. I mean, it's amazing. Like you said, it like compared to what I mean. We have the I took our PlayStation 2 up to the cottage, and we have the old PlayStation, Gran Turismo 4, I think, up there, right? And it's all blocky and what. And I looked at it last time I was there, and it was like, how did we play this? I mean, I remember it was low res graphics, but I didn't think it was that bad, when the old CRT TV that's up there. But
yeah,
admittedly, the graphics on this thing is phenomenal. Like, they even have you spend 5 minutes tuning your television before they'll even let you play the game, sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
But ironically, like, as soon as you plug it in, it's like, oh, this is an HDR TV.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like, already you suck. Your TV sucks, but we'll let you play with it. But this TV, you just spent like, hundreds of dollars last year, top of the line, UDH or UHD Samsung TV. It blows, right?
Yeah. Don't worry. I know that my 1080p TV blows because my 14-year-old tells me constantly.
Oh yeah, I can imagine that.
If this thing was 4K.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. If I wait long enough, it'll be 8K. Leave me alone.
Well, I mean, and it's funny though. So, like, as you know, I got the PlayStation 4 here, right? Well,
yep.
And like I said, I only play Gran Turismo. Really, that's seriously the only game I want to play on this thing, right? And how long have I been waiting for Gran Turismo 4 to come out, or for Gran Turismo Sport to come out for the PlayStation 4? Like what, a year almost?
Yeah, well, more than that probably.
Yeah, I've actually thought, I still have my 3 here. I've actually thought, I'll go plug the 3 in and play Gran Turismo for a couple of hours.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost come to that, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know why we give these people our money. I really don't.
Because they make beautiful games. Beautiful.
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
Well, every few years a new Arkham game comes out and I have to play it, and a new Uncharted game comes out and I have to play it. And if I'm really lucky, every 6 or 7 years they make a new Hot Shots / everybody's golf game, and that I really have to play. So
really, ain't that bad, eh?
I don't know what it is about that. Since the original PlayStation, that's just been my favorite game. And I know some other guys from my years of covering gaming professionally / amateurly, that it's a game that just gets in people's blood. I don't know what it is about that game. They've just made it so fun to play golf. I can't stand real golf games, PGA games or anything, but that game is just so much fun to play. I could play it for hours.
Yeah, see, I just don't get that.
Yeah, it's completely inexplicable. I'm not a huge golf fan. I don't play golf, but boy, I could play that game till my eyes roll back into my head. It's just so much fun.
Okay, here's how Miro works. See, it's amazing.
What's everyone doing at David's desk? Ever since marketing started using Miro's collaborative online whiteboard, he thinks all our other teams should sign up. Why? He says Miro's making his meetings disappear. And if every team gets on it, that means even less meetings. They're using Miro for brainstorms, mind maps, customer research.
So could we use Miro instead of having another 100 meetings for every round of feedback?
Yep. You can comment, react to ideas, even leave a recording on the board.
And what about presentations?
There are Miro templates for that.
How do you know so much about Miro?
I've actually been using it all along. I just used a Miro board to plan the best vacation.
Okay, I'm on board.
See how Miro users save up to 80 hours every year by meeting less and doing more. Get on board at Miro.com with 3 boards free forever. That's MIRO.com.